Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be covering the second English set of Pokemon cards, Jungle. Jungle was released on June 16th, 1999 and consisted of 64 cards, with 16 holographic rares. Jungle was a much smaller set than base set, which makes my job a lot easier, as we will be focusing our attention on these 16 holo rares. Before we get to the cards themselves though, we'll be taking a look at the sealed products that were released for Jungle. First, let's take a look at the first edition Jungle Booster Box, which goes anywhere from $15,000 to $32,000. Pretty insane. These figures are based off of current eBay listings, while the Unlimited Booster Box currently goes for about $7,000 to $9,000. Also pretty crazy, but it makes sense. Booster boxes are becoming harder to find, especially as more and more people open boxes for breaks, or just for fun, or for YouTube. There were two theme decks that were also released alongside Jungle. The first of these being the Water Blast theme deck, which is currently going for about $200, and the deck contained a Vaporeon holographic, which may explain why a unlimited Vaporeon does not go for as much as the Jolteon or Flareon. The second of these decks was the Power Reserve themed deck, which goes for also about $200 and contains the Kangaskhan holographic, which also probably explains why Kangaskhan is not very expensive, at least in the unlimited print run. When it comes down to blister packs, I don't think any first edition blister packs were ever made. I couldn't find any on eBay at the very least, and I couldn't find any past sales for any on eBay, so take it with a grain of salt, but I think that there are only just unlimited blister packs. And currently, a blister pack goes for about $400. First edition booster packs, however, go for about $200 to $400, which is pretty crazy because you could, if you think about it, you could buy 2 booster boxes for the price of 1 jungle pack. Unlimited booster packs go for about $175, and of course that varies if the pack is heavy. A heavy pack will go for a little bit more, somewhere in the ballpark of the 200s, maybe even slightly above. Now that we have talked about all these products, we can finally move on to the holographics in this set. We're going to be taking a look first at the first holographic of this set, Clefable. Clefable, ungraded, goes for about $48 in first edition, and about $18 in unlimited. Both of these prices are corresponding to near mint condition. If you don't know, ungraded cards typically will be listed under one of the following conditions: near mint, light play, moderate play, heavily played, and damaged. Now when it comes to criteria for these, it's a little bit wonky to say the least, because they differ from platform to platform. On eBay, it has a different set of criteria. On TCG Player, it has a different set of criteria. The way I would describe it is a near mint card or a mint card looks brand new. There's maybe like one or two imperfections on it, but it's basically a brand new card. There shouldn't be any major whitening on it. There should be little to no dings. A light play card will have maybe some edge wear, maybe the centering's a little bit off. There's something quite not 100% about it, but it's also not super crazy. Moderate play, you'll see a little bit more whitening, maybe the corners are a little more messed up. Heavily played, there's a good amount of whitening on it. There's probably horrible centering on it. You know, it's kind of odd. I think if you have a moderate to heavily played card, it'll be very, very obvious. When it comes down to damage, that's a card that has a bend in it, a card that has creases, a card that has a damaged hollow. But all the prices I will be listing for ungraded cards will be for the mint or near mint condition cards. So, sticking with the Clefable, the Clefable in PSA First Edition 10 goes for about $2,000. In a PSA 9, it goes for about $162. In a PSA 8, $80. Now for a Clefable in the unlimited print run, PSA 10 goes for about $1,000, a PSA 9 goes for about $120, and a PSA 8 goes for about $50. The second holographic in this set was the Electrode holographic. Electrode Raw goes for Electrode First Edition Raw goes for about $54 in the near mint condition, and about $15 unlimited in a near mint condition. As for PSA, a first edition Electrode in a PSA 10 goes for about $500, in a PSA 9 it goes for about $125, and in a PSA 8 for about $75. Now for the unlimited print run, a PSA 10 also goes for about $500, a PSA 9 goes for about $75, and a PSA 8 goes for $50. I will add a caveat here that these prices are all based off of the PSA website. The reason for me choosing the PSA website over eBay is because the PSA website also includes listings that were sold on other platforms. The third holographic in this set is the Flareon holographic. My second favorite card in the set. Actually, yes, my second favorite card in the set. In a first edition, the card goes for about $140 ungraded in a near mint condition. In unlimited, it goes for about $40 in a near mint condition. As for graded versions of the card, a PSA 10 goes for about $1,000. A PSA 9 goes for about $280, and a PSA 8 goes for about $140. Now here's where it gets a little bit strange. With the Electrode, at least the Electrode and PSA 10 for the Unlimited and the first edition were the same price. Here, for whatever reason, the Flareon in Unlimited actually went for more money recently. It went for about $1,200 in a PSA 10. Why? I'm not really sure, to be honest. I have no idea, but maybe you guys can tell me that in the comments down below. In a PSA 9, it went for about $200, and a PSA 8 goes for about $60. So I think you see the major difference in price when it comes to the PSA 8 and 9, at least for the Unlimited to first edition. That will kind of, that's where the gap really widens, at least for this set. It seems like for the PSA 10, a lot of these cards actually go for about the same, sometimes even more in Unlimited. That might just be due to sales that latest sales, you know what I mean? Just because that's the latest sale, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going for right now. So if you want a more accurate idea of what the card goes for currently, I would always suggest to just head to eBay and see what the average cost is for the product or for the card. Moving on to our next card in the set, we have Jolteon. My favorite card in this set by far. Ungraded in a near mint condition, the first edition card goes for about $200. The Unlimited goes for about $40. $200 is a pretty big jump, and I think it's also the most expensive card in the set, I believe. I might be wrong, but I'm fairly certain this is the most expensive card in the set. As for graded, the PSA 10 goes for about $1,800, the PSA 9 for $350, the PSA 8 for about $125. In the Unlimited run, the PSA 10 goes for about $2,600. The PSA 9 last sold for $220. The PSA 8 sold for $100. Quite interesting if you ask me. That is quite the big gap. But again, as I said previously with Flareon, it might just be due to that Unlimited card selling. Maybe the last one sold in the 2021. The market was a lot more expensive back then. Things have sort of settled down now. Maybe there hasn't been a sale in a little bit, and that's probably why the last sale was $2,600 maybe. But again, I'm not exactly quite sure why this is the case, so if you have any explanations that I'm not aware of, please let me know in the comments down below. The fifth card of this set is the Kangaskhan, and here's where you're going to see a drastic difference in the price just because the Unlimited was available in the theme deck. So it was a lot more common, therefore it's a lot less expensive. In the first edition, near mint ungraded card goes for about $45, whereas the Unlimited goes for $8. When it comes to the graded version of this card, The PSA 10 in the first edition goes for about 2,500, the PSA 9, 200, and the PSA 8, 80. When it comes to the unlimited version of this card, the PSA 10 goes for about 1,200, the PSA 9 goes for about 150, and the PSA 8 goes for about 80 bucks. So Kangaskhan, there's quite a big difference. The PSA 10 is not worth as much in the unlimited, which is fair given that it's a lot more common in that print run. For our 6th card, we have Mr.Mime, one of my least favorite Pokemon. The creepy mime has been ruining our nightmares since 1996. What a fantastic guy. His first edition card in a near mint condition goes for about $61, and the unlimited goes for about $20. So safe to say it's not a very popular card, at least not one of the more popular cards in the set. A PSA 10, however, in a first edition print goes for about $1,000. PSA 9 goes for about $125, and a PSA 8 goes for about $90. In the unlimited print run, a PSA 10 goes for about $850. PSA 9 goes for about $100, and a PSA 8 goes for about $50. The 7th Pokemon, the 7th holographic in this set is the Nidoqueen. One of my favorite Pokemon growing up. I love the color scheme and I love Nidoking too. And a first edition near mint goes for about $72 ungraded and $20 unlimited. In the PSA 10, first edition goes for about $750, a 9 goes for about $140, and an 8 goes for about $60. Unlimited, the PSA 10 goes for about $900. Another one of those weird cards where the unlimited has gone for more money than the actual first edition. A 9 goes for about $130, and an 8 goes for about $50. Again, it's one of these cards that has a bit of a weird pricing situation. The next card in this set is the Pidgeot. One of the more popular cards I like to say in this set. The Pidgeot in the first edition near mint goes for about $80. Unlimited goes for about $25. PSA 10, first edition goes for about $1,300. A 9 goes for about $200, and an 8 goes for about $80. In the unlimited print run, a PSA 10 goes for about $1,200. PSA 9 goes for about $150, and a PSA 8 goes for about $80. The 9th card in this set is one of my personal favorite Pokemon. I love bug-type Pokemon. They're some of my favorite designs. I think they're so neatly designed, which is why it's such a shame that they suck in game. But our next Pokemon is Pinsir, one of my personal favorites. In the first edition, ungraded, near mint, this card goes for about $61. Unlimited, it goes for about $19. As for the graded side of things, a PSA 10 will run you about $800, a PSA 9 $160, and a PSA 8 $70. As for the unlimited, a PSA 10 will also run you for about $800, a PSA 9 $100, and a PSA 8 $50. Now we move on to arguably one of the greatest bug Pokemon of all time, Scyther. I do like Scyther more than Pinsir. Only for a little bit though. Only a little bit more though. In the first edition run, an ungraded near mint Scyther goes for about $84, whereas the unlimited goes for about $25. PSA 10, first edition goes for about $1,600. PSA 9 goes for about $220, and a PSA 8 goes for about $100. Unlimited, a PSA 10 goes for about $1,000, PSA 9 $150, and a PSA 8 goes for $85. Looks like I may have been wrong about Jolteon being the most popular card in this set, because next off we have the most expensive card, ungraded. We have the Snorlax holographic. The first edition ungraded near mint Snorlax goes for about $233, whereas the unlimited version goes for $53. So definitely the most expensive card we've seen so far. When it comes to the graded side of things, that trend seems to continue, with a PSA 10 going for about $6,000, a PSA 9 for $550, a PSA 8 for about $225. On the unlimited side of things, a PSA 10 goes for about $2,500, a PSA 9 $250, and a PSA 8 for about $150. So what can I say about Snorlax? One of the greatest Pokemon of all time, and its debut in the TCG. It's a gorgeous card, and it's one of the more... It is probably the most valuable card in the set. Moving on, we have another very popular card in the set, the Vaporeon holographic. As mentioned before, there is a very big difference between the first edition and the unlimited, being that the unlimited was available in a theme deck, so it was a lot easier to get. As for the first edition, it goes for about $127, of course near mint. The unlimited goes for about $16, again near mint. As for the graded side of things, the PSA 10 first edition goes for about $6,300. PSA 9 goes for about $350, and a PSA 8 goes for about $150. So this card and a PSA 10 has gone for more than the Snorlax in the past. I don't know if I would say that it's still a more expensive card, given that the PSA 9 and the PSA 8 for the Snorlax are more expensive than the Vaporeon. So I'd still say Snorlax is probably the more expensive and more hype card in the set. But Vaporeon is still pulling big numbers. As for the unlimited side of things, a PSA 10 goes for about $3,500, $3,500, a PSA 9 $225, and a PSA 8 $150. Now we are heading on to the last 3 cards from this set. The last 4 cards from this set. First off, we have a Venomoth holographic. A lot of bug Pokemon, definitely fits the theme of a jungle with all the grass and bug and some birds here and there, right? Definitely fitting the theme of this set. The Venomoth first edition goes for about $54. Of course, when I say these prices for the ungraded cards, I'm talking about in a near mint condition. You can probably find these cards a little bit cheaper if you go for a little bit less on the quality. So if you want to get a heavily played or a moderate play, but because we're all collectors here, and I think we want to have cards in good condition at least, I'm going to go for the near mint option when listing the prices. As I was saying, the first edition goes for about $54, where the unlimited goes for about $18. The PSA 10 first edition goes for about $700. The 9 goes for about $150, and the 8 goes for about $50, while the unlimited, the PSA 10 goes for $650, the 9 for $90, and the 8 for $50. Next we move on to another creepy, cool plant. We have Victrebell, a really cool grass type Pokemon. The first edition ungraded goes for about $57, where the unlimited goes for about $21. The PSA 10 first edition goes for about $1,200, the 9 for $140, and the 6 for about $60. The 8 for about $60. The unlimited, the PSA 10 goes for about $1,200 again, the 9 for $125, and the 8 for $60. Next we move on to a giant, beautiful flower creature. We have Vileplum. First edition goes for about $56, the unlimited for $22. The PSA 10 first edition goes for about $800, the 9 for $125, and the 8 for $60. This is another card that has that weird scheme we talked about earlier, where the unlimited is going for quite a bit more. It goes for about $1,200, the PSA 9 for $100, and the PSA 8 for $50. Again, this is a really strange trend that I don't expect to continue with Fossil or any of the other sets from Wizards of the Coast, but I guess we'll see when I make the next video. Now we move on to the final holographic and the final card I will be covering in this set. We have the Wigglytuff. First edition goes for about $70, so it's clearly doing something for somebody, and the unlimited goes for about $23. For the PSA, when it comes to the graded side of things, the PSA 10 goes for about $1,700, the PSA 9 $160, and the PSA 8 goes for about $50. On the unlimited side of things, the PSA 10 goes for about 1500, the PSA 9 for about 100, and the PSA 8 goes for about 60. So how was this? Taking a look back at Jungle. What was your favorite card from the set? Mine's is probably that Jolteon, although now remembering the Snorlax, I like that Snorlax a lot too, so I think Snorlax will take a second place seat though. I think Jolteon without a doubt is my favorite card from the set. But I'd love to know your opinions down in the comments below, so please, as always, comment, like, and subscribe. Come back next month where we'll be covering the next set of the Pokemon TCG, Fossil.